Welcome to the Nation of History channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one.
High-impact events struck warehouses and port facilities in Wonsan in 1951 during air operations involving B-26 Invader aircraft from the 5th Air Force. These actions affected North Korea's infrastructure during the Korean War, influencing its economy and logistics. During the Korean War, air operations gained attention with United States missions over strategic bridges in 1952. These actions were important for disrupting supply routes and advancing the goals of that period's campaigns. Members in the field during World War I began using protective masks, a crucial innovation in the face of new environmental and technological risks. This equipment transformed safety practices and marked a significant change in the protective measures adopted during that period. The featured actress shows a hairstyle typical of the 1960s and wears clothing from the era, while an urban setting with buildings and palm trees in the background reveals the atmosphere of a decade marked by cinema and fashion that influenced cultural standards. Uniformed members with period features help explain the end of World War II, a crucial moment that marked the beginning of Europe's reconstruction. The capture of Berlin in 1945 symbolized the end of a decisive phase and the beginning of a new world order. The interaction between a uniformed general and an official wearing a presidential sash reveals delicate moments in Chilean politics, reflecting the climate before the institutional rupture of 1973. These images show the complex relationships between military and civilian sectors during a period of instability that culminated in a deep change in Salvador Allende's government. The YB-49 prototype, a flying wing developed by the United States in the 1940s, made test flights in 1947, marking advances in military aviation and possibilities for transportation strategies. These experiments drove new aircraft concepts with innovative design at the time. During tensions between Iran and Iraq, the leadership in Baghdad visited members of the country in operational areas, reinforcing the national policy of that period. His presence symbolized the Iraqi position under regional pressure, which brought human impacts and deepened disputes in the Middle East. In the transition between 1914 and 1919, King's College Hospital symbolized the United Kingdom's medical response during World War I, a period that accelerated advances in hospital care and treatment for members of the armed forces. Its structure marked an important phase of medicine during a time of major national mobilization. Uniformed members wearing winter clothing appear gathered in a snow-covered setting with the horizon in the background. This image suggests a strategic activity during a time of strong international tension, possibly in the context of the Cold War, shaped by the political climate of that period. The record of a whale found in the Alaska region in 1910 reveals the impact of intensive maritime exploration on many marine species. This narrative highlights the preservation of marine life and the environmental impact caused by human activity, reflecting early conservation efforts in natural areas. The transformation of the United States ship Langley in 1928 marked the birth of American naval aviation forces as the country's first aircraft carrier. Its innovation expanded naval power and changed military strategies, establishing the importance of air control at sea and influencing later wars. The episode involving Clark Olofsson in a Stockholm bank in 1973 led to the definition of the so-called Stockholm Syndrome, a term used to describe an unusual emotional bond formed in high-pressure situations. The Nora Malmstorg case brought attention to debates about psychological impact and the actions of authorities. During the Antarctic expedition in 1911, Edward Evans used a telescope to observe the occultation of Jupiter, an important astronomical event that helped advance knowledge about celestial bodies. This exploration marked a crucial phase in the history of polar scientific observation. Salma Hayek, the famous Mexican actress, stood out in the 1990s, a period marked by the growing presence of Latinos in Hollywood and the rise of cultural representation. Her career helped to drive diversity in the film industry. The presence of men in old clothing, the style of the fence, and the setting indicate a scene from the late 19th century or early 20th century in the Seychelles, where Jonathan, the oldest land tortoise in the world, was about 50 years old in the photo and is now 191 years old. This species helped protect local biodiversity. The capstone of an Egyptian pyramid represents the height of a civilization that revolutionized architecture and religious beliefs more than 4,000 years ago. The preservation of its top shows the care taken to keep this heritage alive, a symbol of power and divinity, up to the present day. The person portrayed, wearing traditional clothing with long, natural hair, points to a time of strong appreciation for local culture after the abolition of slavery in 1888 in Brazil. This 1885 photo shows customs and identities that shaped the country's social formation. European explorers such as Attilio Gatti carried out expeditions in the Congo forest during the 1930s, a phase marked by the search for exotic species and natural resources driven by colonization. These actions reinforced European interest in Africa, influencing the economy and colonial exploitation. The presence of officers and assistants at a camp near Belmont, Nevada, reflects the expansion of the American West after the Civil War and the rush for mineral resources in the 19th century. This period marked advances in exploration and territorial settlement, driving the country's development. The movement of logs by workers in Glens Falls at the beginning of the 20th century highlights the role of lumber in the local economy. The arrival of railroads made it easier to export natural resources, driving industrial development and reinforcing the importance of rail transportation in the region's economic expansion. Inside Pullman cars from the late 19th century, the interior reflected the luxury and progress of the time with velvet furniture, gas or oil lighting, elaborate decorative details, and heavy curtains that created a sophisticated setting. This transportation innovation marked a crucial evolution in mobility and comfort. During the 1920s, the famous Macy's Parade in New York celebrated innovation and urban entertainment with extravagant processions. At that time, period cars and classic outfits set the tone, while balloon animals, such as the centipede, won over the public and became symbols of this tradition. In the history of American celebrations, the Thanksgiving Parade became a massive event, with old vehicles, people dressed in period clothing, and giant figures reflecting advertising style, and the architecture of skyscraper buildings with Latin letters, marking the growth of urban centers and marketing. During the 1950s and 1960s, classic-style swimwear reflected the fashion of the time, while old model motorcycles symbolized mechanical innovation. These images show urban growth and the cultural impact of the period, marked by technological advances and social changes. The excitement of people watching a television set for the first time at Waterloo Station in London in 1936 reveals the importance of technological innovation at that moment. This advance marked the beginning of television's popularization, which would transform communication, entertainment, and the spread of information around the world, influencing culture and society. Picasso's creativity took an innovative turn by using light to create a painting in a dark room in 1949, through a technique that highlights contrast in halftone photography. This approach reinforced artistic experimentation, influencing future uses of light in art and photography. Musician Jerry Garcia appears positioned in front of the monumental speaker structure known as the Wall of Sound, developed for Grateful Dead performances in 1974. This revolutionary system weighed about 165,000 pounds and redefined acoustic engineering for shows in large arenas. The presence of old cars equipped with safety devices, such as the pedestrian scoop, reflects early traffic protection efforts in Paris in 1924, when initiatives aimed to reduce accidents and the growing urban mobility of a capital seeking modern transportation solutions. In the 1890s, a woman known as Vulcana stood out in the strength performance scene in the United Kingdom, showing exceptional physical abilities in a popular entertainment setting of the time. Her presence helped establish the tradition of circus acts and strength shows in the late 19th century. The advance of women in archery reflected the growing participation of women in sports and public activities in the early 20th century. This social change occurred after recognition of women's right to compete, influencing sports culture, especially in traditional events like those held in London. In the late 19th century, the popularity of cycling grew among women, symbolizing greater independence and female freedom. This phase marked social advances, reflected in fashion, and in the use of simple bicycles in parks, where women of the time wore long dresses and tall hats. The scene reflects a moment of traditional Japanese culture, with 3 children dressed in dark, patterned yukatas, indoor spaces with wooden walls and rice paper doors, indicating a time in the late 19th century that marked the consolidation of modernization in the country after the Meiji Restoration. The presence of signs written in Chinese characters reveals the growth of immigrant communities in Asia, while street markets served as meeting and trading points that drove the local economy. These areas played a fundamental role in the integration of cultures and economic expansion. The appearance of low-quality black and white photographs reinforces the historical character of a period when visual records were scarce. The presence of a church with a pointed tower indicates an important religious center, showing the role of religion in the social and cultural formation of communities during the 19th century. William Henry Jackson, a pioneer in landscape photography, captured the majesty of mountains in the Rocky Mountains region, a crucial moment that promoted tourism and environmental preservation, influencing future exploration of the wild and natural areas of the United States. In the early 20th century, the Burbank region in California stood out for agricultural pioneering by celebrating one of the largest grape harvests of 1930. This achievement reinforced the importance of the wine industry in the local economy, driving agricultural development on the west coast of the United States. The Bowman Dairy Company Milk Express in Chicago reveals the transition from traditional to modern transportation in the early 20th century, when the city was experiencing rapid economic and urban growth. This era marked advances in infrastructure, influencing the organization of deliveries and lifestyles. In early 20th century Brighton, a bicycle shop stands out with its wooden facade, multi-pane windows, and handwritten advertising. Old bicycles and period clothing illustrate a moment when the use of motor vehicles was still just beginning, marking the rise of popular transportation. A historic figure in American baseball, Babe Ruth helped establish the sport as popular entertainment by hitting 714 home runs and winning 7 world titles over more than 2 decades. His career helped transform the image of professional players in the modern era. Dancers get ready backstage at Ciro's Club in London before the 1950s show, reflecting the glamour of the post-war era and the energy of London entertainment. This period marked a cultural rebirth after World War II, strengthening the city as an artistic center. In the early 20th century, postal service in Sweden depended on mail carriers who faced extreme temperatures, as shown by heavy clothing with fur coats, wool hats, and leather gear. This dedication kept communication going, which was essential for social connection in remote regions. On a London street, passengers wore formal clothing with traditional hats while boarding a double-decker bus, an innovation in city transportation at the time. In 1928, this image shows the growth of cities and progress in mobility, marking an important stage in the history of public transportation. The use of record players in 1922 marked a revolution in music distribution, making it possible to listen to recordings at home, something that had previously been limited to live performances. This innovation drove the popularity of recorded sound, influencing culture and audio technology throughout the 20th century. Using high-contrast photographic techniques from the 1950s to the 1970s, this image portrays a Hollywood era marked by classic glamour and the influence of cinema on world culture. This phase established the film industry as a global economic and cultural force. The presence of Frank Sinatra and Dionne Warwick at a ski resort in Lake Tahoe points to the height of American jazz in the 1960s, a period when both influenced the national music scene. This appearance strengthened the connection between popular music, festival culture, and television events. The presence of Elizabeth Montgomery and Julie Newmar in an indoor broadcast setting in the 1970s reflects the height of American television at the time, marked by innovation in production and color technology. This phase boosted popular culture and established shows that still influence audiences today. The presence of David Bowie and Mick Jagger together shows the influence of the 1970s on music culture and the collaborations that marked an era of change. This friendship highlights the blend of styles and the impact of both figures on rock history, reflecting a phase of innovation and unity among icons. During the 1920s, the female figure represented social freedom and cultural innovation, marked by the flapper style with short hair and loose dresses. This change reflects the shift from traditional values to a more modern society, influenced by transformations after World War I. Celebrated in 1945, the celebration of the end of World War II marked the Allied victory and symbolized hope and renewal. The black and white photo shows tourists and soldiers in Times Square, reflecting the mood of relief and excitement in a nation seeking reconstruction after years of conflict. In a setting that resembles an exhibition or a library, 6 young men dressed in dark suits and ties gather around a motorcycle with a sidecar, some touching or pointing at it, while a uniformed adult watches closely, emphasizing the importance of technical education and innovation in the motor and technical development of youth. The man wears clothing typical of the 1930s and looks at an old car with an identification plate, in an outdoor setting with trees in the background, reflecting an era of growing social and technological changes that marked the post-divorce transition period. In the 1950s, the use of fixed phones on the street reflected the growth of public communication, while old cars with fabric tops and metal hubcaps symbolized automotive progress. These innovations marked the social and technological transformation of that period. Movements challenging the beauty standard that favored blondes drove campaigns in the 1950s, like this one, promoting appreciation for brunettes and redheads, questioning the exclusion of other hair types, and opening space for debates about diversity and equality in beauty preferences. Tina Turner in 1989 Paris symbolized the peak of her career with a striking late 1980s style. During this period, the singer strengthened her international presence after the success of her tours and albums, influencing fashion and pop culture while also representing female strength in the music scene. At the height of the 20th century, artists like Brigitte Bardot and Jane Birkin symbolized French fashion and culture, influencing generations with their iconic style. Their looks reflected the freedom of expression that marked the 1950s through the 1970s, a period of intense social and artistic change. In this setting of elegance and glamour, Brigitte Bardot and Jean Gabin appear in a 1958 film production, marking one of the most representative moments of French cinema at the time. This period was characterized by classic black and white productions. The presence of classic cars and clothing typical of the 1950s reveals the lively atmosphere of Los Angeles at that time, a significant period when fast urban growth encouraged the rise of events such as street races that became symbols of the California lifestyle, driving car culture forward. The presence of movie stars at the premiere of a Claude Sauté opera in Paris shows the influence of cinema and art on French culture during the 1970s. This connection strengthened the union between different artistic forms and marked the cultural development of the time. During the Cannes Film Festival in 1973, Jacqueline Bisset drew attention by appearing with striking elegance, reflecting the glamour of the era's combined celebration of cinema and fashion. At that time, the event strengthened its importance as an international showcase, influencing style standards. During the 1970s, Guns N' Roses guitarist Slash appears with long curly hair, wearing casual clothes beside Melissa Fisher, who has straight hair, in an indoor setting filled with people. This period marked the rise of heavy rock and the establishment of influential bands in the music scene. At the height of the disco era, Bianca Jagger, a symbol of glamour, and Carolina Herrera, a renowned fashion designer, appeared at Studio 54 in 1979, an iconic nightclub that defined New York nightlife culture. This era revealed the connection between fashion and exclusivity, turning the venue into an icon of freedom and creativity. In England, double-decker buses were symbols of urban mobility in the 1960s, reflecting advances in engineering and public transportation. During this period, knowledge about transportation systems helped support the growth of cities and improve people's lives. A boy and a man pose in a brick and wood setting, with clothing, footwear, and furniture typical of 1890 in Scotland. This era marked advances in photography that captured images with greater clarity, influencing historical and cultural records of that period. Women play ball on the sand of a wide beach with scattered tents, wearing swimsuits typical of the 1930s, in a black and white scene that reveals a moment of leisure without modern technology, reflecting the lifestyle of that era. Model Cheryl Tiegs, a symbol of 1970s fashion, appears in a striking Helmut Newton photo shoot for Vogue, a magazine that strengthened its role as an influencer in the industry. This production highlighted trends of the time, establishing fashion as a cultural and social expression. Young Audrey Hepburn trained in ballet in the 1950s, when classical dance was beginning to influence fashion and cinema. Her dedication to ballet reflected a search for elegance and discipline, traits that shaped her artistic career and helped make her a cultural icon to this day. The union of Dorothy Dandridge and Jack Dennison in 1959 marked a notable social episode, reflecting the glamour and tradition of the 20th century elite. Weddings of this kind strengthened social and economic ties, influencing the culture of the time, especially in an atmosphere of elegance, as shown by the formal clothing and classic setting. The music group ABBA, a pioneer in the pop scene, gained worldwide attention after its 1974 success, and in 1975 its clothing style reflected 1970s fashion with flare pants, tall boots, and leather jackets. The black and white image points to this era of innovation in international music. Richard Burton, a film icon, gained recognition in the 1950s by acting in major works and standing out for his versatility. His career helped establish Hollywood as the world center of cinema, influencing generations and raising the artistic standard of the film industry. Young people in the 1940s enjoyed milkshakes at a Des Moines drugstore while old cars passed in the background. This era marked the height of popular soda fountain culture and the expansion of businesses that would become cultural symbols, reflecting post-war optimism. In the 1960s, famous figures such as Sophia Loren and Carlo Ponti enjoyed moments of rest in New York hotels before major premieres such as Dr. Zhivago. This era marked the consolidation of international cinema and the presence of stars at prestigious events. The presence of a female figure in a period home setting reveals the importance of Christmas in American culture during the 1940s, when the country was living through World War II. The festive decoration reinforces the spirit of hope and unity during difficult times, marking a historic phase of social change. At the height of the 1950s, Marilyn Monroe, a symbol of glamour and talent, glides with graceful posture in an enclosed space with glass walls, reflecting the fashion style of the time with a high waist and full curls. Her presence reinforces the cultural and style influence of that era. At the height of the 1950s, Elizabeth Taylor writes Christmas cards in a scene that reveals the glamour of the era, with elegant clothing and sophisticated hairstyles. The Christmas decoration and stone architecture in the background reflect tradition and the festive spirit, marking an important cultural moment. At the height of the 1950s, Alfred Hitchcock, master of suspense, influenced world filmmaking with works such as North by Northwest, released in 1959. His innovative approach shaped the genre and raised the standard of storytelling and directing, leaving a lasting legacy in film history. The festive mood and vibrant style of the 1970s influenced women's fashion, marked by short skirts and striped shirts. This era also favored patterned furniture and hanging lamps, reflecting a society that sought to express freedom and modernity through decoration and clothing. In the early 1970s, the Netherlands women's soccer team emerged in local and regional competitions, standing out for wearing round neck uniforms, short shorts, and striped socks, marking the progress of women's sports at a time of limited appreciation and international recognition. Diana Ross, in a 1975 portrait, displays the vibrant style of the 1970s with full hair, striking makeup, and clothing typical of the era. The setting with lights and stars suggests a festive or exhibition environment, highlighting her influence on fashion and music culture of that period. Tenzin Gyatso, the 14th Dalai Lama, appears smiling with his cat in a 1979 photo captured by Raghu Rai. This era marked efforts to preserve Tibetan identity in the face of historical pressure, raising the importance of his public and cultural figure. Young Shirley Temple, a symbol of hope and entertainment in the 1940s, married an Air Force sergeant in 1945, at a time when the world sought unity and resilience in the face of the effects of war. Her marriage reflected the strong connection between people and the war effort. The image captures a moment of affection between George H.W. Bush and his youngest son in 1947, shortly after the end of World War II, a period that strengthened the role of the United States as a global power. This family relationship reflected values that would shape the country's future leadership. In the 1960s, fashion and lifestyle went through major changes, reflected in car advertising, such as the 1968 Ford Corsair, a symbol of the growing auto industry. This evolution drove economic growth and consumer culture in the Western world. A person poses for a black and white photograph, wearing period clothing and an old-fashioned hairstyle in an indoor setting decorated with floral wallpaper and a photo shelf. This image points to the beginning of the 20th century, when photography became established as a way to record important historical and personal moments. The first photograph of Hannah Stiley, an elderly woman seated with a serious expression, shows the beginning of the photography era. The 19th century image reveals the technical advance that made it possible to capture moments and people, influencing historical and cultural records to this day.
If you enjoyed this video and want to support the channel, please use the Super Thanks tool below. Your contribution helps us keep bringing you amazing historical content. Thank you so much for your support, and see you in the next video.